So you're here. Good. I was hoping for company. You see, I've got stories, dark ones, chilling ones, the kind that keep you up at night. Mythical creatures, curses, horrors you can't escape. Shall we begin? Don't worry, I won't bite. Much.
Over 100 years ago, in the quiet and affluent town of Windsor near London, there lived a wealthy merchant named Henry Morton. Born into a prosperous family, Henry inherited a sizable estate and lived a life of luxury. However, he had an unusual passion that became the talk of the town. He loved collecting antiques, especially those shrouded in mysterious legends. Among his collection were a golden staff said to be from ancient Egypt, rumored to summon the souls of the dead, a necklace made of human bones, believed to protect its wearer from evil, and most bizarrely, a glass vial filled with a red liquid that was said to be the failed experiment of a medieval alchemist, bringing an eternal curse to anyone who dared to open it. One rainy afternoon, Henry wandered into a local auction house in Windsor. His eyes were immediately drawn to an ancient silver mirror placed prominently in the center of the hall. The mirror's ornate frame was carved with intricate patterns and adorned with several dark red gemstones that gleamed eerily under the dim light. The auctioneer, noticing Henry's interest, leaned in and whispered, "Mr. Morton, this mirror arrived just last night. They say it's quite unusual. The previous owners all returned it shortly after purchasing, claiming it brought bad luck." Henry raised an eyebrow and smirked. Superstitions, nothing more than foolish tales. He ran his hand over the mirror's surface, cold as ice and smooth as water, reflecting his confident face. "This is exactly what I've been looking for," Henry declared, wasting no time in purchasing the mirror at a steep price. As he left, he remarked to the auctioneer with a knowing smile, "There's no such thing as a cursed object, only cowardly people." But from the moment the mirror was hung on the wall of his bedroom, strange things began to happen. That very night, Henry was jolted awake from a nightmare, feeling an unnatural chill in the room. Instinctively, he turned to look at the mirror and saw a faint, blurry face staring back at him. It was pale, with an unsettling smile, and seemed to be looking straight into his eyes. He sat up abruptly, rubbed his eyes, and looked again. The face was gone, leaving only his own startled reflection. Convincing himself it was a trick of the light, he forced himself to go back to sleep. But every night thereafter, the mirror grew more peculiar. Sometimes faint lights flickered within it, like ghostly eyes watching from the darkness. Other times, shadows seemed to shift and move, as if something was lurking behind the glass. One night, summoning his courage, Henry lit a candle and moved closer to examine the mirror. The candlelight danced on the surface, and for a brief moment, he thought he saw another figure, not his own, hunched and still, standing behind him. He spun around, but the room was empty. His heart pounding, he looked back at the mirror, only to find the shadow had vanished, leaving the surface smooth and still as a frozen lake. As time went on, Henry began hearing strange sounds. Late at night, while lying in bed, he would hear faint tapping, rhythmic and deliberate, as if someone was gently knocking on the mirror's surface. Worse still, he started hearing low whispers. The sound seemed to come from deep within the mirror, faint and distorted, calling his name. "Henry. Henry." It was a voice that sounded both far away, like a breeze in the distance, and unnervingly close, as if whispered directly into his ear. One night, unable to bear it any longer, Henry leapt out of bed and lit a candle. He approached the mirror, his hand trembling as he ran it over the cold glass, trying to find the source of the voice. The whispers stopped abruptly, plunging the room into an oppressive silence. Just as he began to relax, the mirror glowed faintly red, and the outline of a face appeared. It was the same pale, smiling face, only now its expression was cold and filled with malice. Furious, Henry shouted, "Damn you! I'll smash you to pieces!" He grabbed the heavy candle holder and raised it to strike the mirror. But just as he was about to swing, an overwhelming smell of burning filled the air. The acrid scent made him dizzy, and before he could react, he collapsed to the floor. Over the following weeks, nightmares plagued Henry relentlessly. He dreamed of standing in a burning estate, the flames consuming everything around him. The air was thick with smoke, and the heat was unbearable. In the distance, a charred woman emerged from the ruins, her scorched skin cracked and peeling. Her hollow eyes burned with hatred, and she walked slowly but deliberately toward him. Her voice was raspy, like the crackling of fire, each word tearing through the air as though born from the flames that had consumed her. "Henry Morton, give me back my life," she repeated over and over. Henry would wake up drenched in sweat, his heart racing as though he had narrowly escaped death. The sound of his ragged breathing filled the room, and he could feel the damp sheets clinging to his skin, amplifying the suffocating dread that lingered from his dreams. No matter how much brandy he drank to calm his nerves, the dreams only became more vivid, pushing him closer to madness. His health began to deteriorate. His once rosy complexion turned pale, and a persistent cough racked his body. The servants noticed his erratic behavior. He would sit for hours, staring into the mirror, muttering to himself. He snapped at everyone, lashing out without reason, and smashed several valuable items in fits of rage. One frigid night, Henry awoke to an icy chill in the room. The mirror was glowing with a faint red light. He tried to look away, but his gaze was drawn to the reflection, as if an unseen force compelled him to confront the sinister image before him. Standing in the mirror was the charred woman from his dreams, her twisted face filled with vengeful glee. "Henry Morton," she hissed, her voice sharp and grating like shattered glass. "Do you remember me?" Henry stammered. "Who are you?" The woman's cracked lips curled into a bitter smile. "5 years ago, you forced me to sell my home for your estate expansion. When I refused, you set fire to my house. My children and I burned alive while you grew rich on the ashes of our lives. Now it's your turn to pay." Henry's face turned ashen. "It was an accident. I never meant for anyone to get hurt." Her laughter was piercing and cruel. "Your lies are as hollow as your soul. They won't save you now." As her words echoed, her burned hand reached out from the mirror, its bony fingers gripping Henry's shoulder. Henry struggled, but his reflection in the mirror began to fade, becoming fainter and fainter until it disappeared entirely. When the red glow subsided, the room was silent. Henry lay lifeless on the floor, his face twisted in terror. The next morning, the servants found his body. The mirror still hung on the wall, its surface gleaming unnaturally bright, though the red gemstones had dulled to a lifeless gray. Stories of the cursed mirror spread quickly through Windsor. Some said it trapped vengeful spirits, punishing those who wronged others. One tale spoke of a former owner, a crooked banker, who was found dead in his study with the mirror's red gemstones glowing faintly beside his pale, lifeless body. The whispers of his crime still haunted the auction house where the mirror was first sold. Henry's grand estate was abandoned, and the mirror was buried in the wilderness outside town. Yet, on quiet, moonless nights, passers-by swore they could hear faint whispers drifting through the wind. "Justice will come. You can't escape."